The August 19th, 2013 meeting and public hearing of the City of Falls Church Planning Commission is now in session. Ms. G, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Hockenberry?
Here.
Mr. Rankin?
Here.
Ms. Rodgers?
Here.
Ms. Teates?
Here.
Mr. Wodiska?
Here.
And Mr. Meeks is expected.
Thank you, Ms. G. I'd like a motion for adoption of the agenda, please.
Also move.
Second. It's moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda of this evening. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I know that there are planning commission reports. We'll start to my right.
Oh,
Ms. Hockenberry.
the
Oh, are you?
talkative one?
No, are you ready?
Of course I am.
Sorry?
Okay. As everybody knows, I don't have any life, and so I go to meetings for entertainment. But some of them were really, really good. And briefly, just EDA retreat was fantastic. They were really talking a lot about parking. One of the big questions was George Mason Square, when the sign was going to go up for public parking, and it's there, but it's tiny. I think we need to look into that. It's tiny, tiny. I mean, you really have to look for it. Downtown, they're thinking restarting the Downtown Merchants Group. They're looking at a BID, which is Business Industry Development or something like that. But what it does is, it usually is a tax overlay, but this wouldn't be. They want to get somebody hired, even part-time, to support all the things that go on in the city, all the festivals, all the, all the stuff, including special things, the restaurants and everything. And then the big thing that wasn't on their agenda, and I said to Mike Novotny, you better have it, is land banking. Because I think that's something that the EDA really needs to be involved in. And the fact that, they're also wondering if they're going to get back any of the money that, they held the loan on Podolnik. Library presentation, I know we'll probably have more on that tonight, or more questions, and if anybody does, I'd be happy to go into it. Good Fortune groundbreaking, and city council meeting, which had a lot of things going on, but one thing that was really interesting that I know we've worried about before is a home place for transportation money, and a transportation fund. And I know Paul was there presenting that, and so he might even give us a couple words on that, because I think that's very interesting. And also, there was a big announcement about bigger renovation at Mount Daniel than was originally planned. And again, we weren't notified of any of this, neither were we notified about the library presentation and, what they were planning to do. But I would greatly like it if our chair and maybe Melissa, who was on the task force before, get together with the superintendent and the vice chair and the chair of the school board, because I think we need a really big view on this. There is so much coming down with the sale of the water, our water company. And just the fact that we will be getting, ownership, we already own it, but, we can actually make decisions on the George Mason site if that passes in November. So I think there's so much going on, we really need to look at big picture items. The other thing is I would really, really like it, and Deborah, this might be for you, that when notices for the EDC, the Economic Development Committee, come out, that all planning commissioners receive the notice. But anyway, so there are lots of things. Are we going to be talking about the library at all tonight?
Well, Lindy, if you'd like to talk about it now, I think that might be a good time.
Okay. This was at a work session with the city council, and the library board has hired
A consultant
consultant study to be done. And the suggestions were to greatly expand on all three sides of the library. And they also proposed a parking garage in the 313 building site without asking or first notifying the people who own that building that, gee, they've got a plan for a parking garage. Didn't go over very well. And, you know, all we've ever heard about constantly is the fact that they were wanting to expand to the other medical building, to the other side, the white one. And so all of a sudden, there's this plan out there, and it is online.
Okay.
And of course, it's also somewhere around 13 million with no parking, unless they build the parking garage. And so it's quite
And,
a situation.
and this was, and you got all this information from which meeting?
That was from the city council work session.
Okay. Have any of the other commissioners were at that work session?
And I don't know if we have a
No.
liaison or not.
Okay. I'm just thinking, it's definitely something that we want to discuss, but since we don't personally have the details, it's something that we probably have to get up to speed on, and then we can discuss it among ourselves, and also possibly ask for a briefing by the library
Right,
board.
right, because, you know, it just seems like that would be, you know, our bailiwick to look at.
Yeah. I think we have a liaison to the library board. Do we, Ms. G? I just don't remember who it is. Yeah, you think we do have someone on that board? Or
I'm
at
sorry, I
least
don't
a
know off the
liaison?
top of
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
our
don't
memories
think
are
we-
gone.
I don't know if we traditionally have, but I think when Mr. Lawrence was a member, because he
Oh,
was
that's
on the
right,
library
he was
board,
on the
he
board,
acted as
okay.
a liaison, but I think
Okay.
before that, the planning commission didn't typically have one, because
Okay.
generally there wasn't developmental planning
Exactly, yeah.
issues. It sounds to me like if I had been told that they, you know, I see the council's work session schedule a lot of times. I try to look at it, but it's summertime, I've been in and out of the area.
Right, right.
And driving kids to summer camps 4 hours away, and, you know, that's not fun. But, you know, if we had been told that these were going to be issues that we're going to be dealing with long-term CIP and planning issues, we could have tried to get more people there. And I think, Mr. Fuller, I think the thing I'm thinking is I think we need to have the library board do the same briefing for us in a work session. And I think the same thing for the schools. I'm
Yeah,
happy
I agree,
to meet
yeah.
with Ruth, with someone, but I think it would be better to have the schools come. If they have, the last time we talked to them, they did not have any definitive plans. And I had talked to the superintendent after that and Mr. Lawrence, and I was told they were working on things. So if I had known they had any kind of definitive plans, I would have been glad to have gone to hear them. But I think that because of our, you know, if we do get, you know, we do own the George Mason site, but we do not have zoning overview of it at this time. Zoning overview of it, the site plan is done by Fairfax County. If we get the rights to do that site plan, that's on us to do the site plan as it is
Exactly.
for the library site. So I think it would be good to see both those groups come in and do a work session with us as
And
well.
it would be a lot, not that I don't think yours is a good idea.
Okay.
But it would be a public meeting then,
Right,
that people want,
right.
if they wanted to come to, and we'd all be on the same page, and everybody would have the same information at the same time.
Absolutely.
So if we could request that of both of the library board and the school board, that would be really helpful.
You know, in addition, I think that we are at such a crossroads with what we can really look at, that we've never had the opportunity to do some shifting around and things like that. And I do think that we really need to look at the big picture of everything and see what the possibilities are.
Well, and that came up during our last CIP, and there were problems because of it, so,
And not only that, but also with the library.
yes.
Well, and there always seems to be this assumption when the site plans involve city property, that we're gonna be able to move through it really fast. And because these are public buildings though, and we're talking about buildings used by children, and you can't move through them super fast. You still have to look at all the different components. You have to look at the fire safety, you have to look at engineering, and the staff has to look at all of it. Just because they're city-owned property doesn't mean the site plans go fast.
Right.
So it'd be good for us to be on the same page
And this
before
one's
the
built
November
right up to
election.
all the sight lines, it's, of the property lines. And also with the library, I know that they interviewed a lot of people, and, we weren't involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you both. Yes,
So what I'm hearing is you would like to have it on a regular scheduled
yes.
planning commission night, and then you could have a work session afterwards, and maybe possibly we could pair the two up that night.
Right.
So
And
They might be
when
a
I,
little-
when I meet with,
Might be long.
to have both of them, because they were long?
well, we'll
Okay.
see.
I don't know about the schools, but the library was
Okay.
long.
Okay,
And when I have my scheduling meeting with Jim Snyder, maybe
Okay.
we can work it out then. Okay?
all right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you both. Any other meetings or reports?
No, I don't report them.
Oh, okay. On another issue? Okay, all right. Okay, if there are no, oh, I do have a report. I attended the Stormwater Task Force meeting on Wednesday. And later on, under new business, there will be an appointment of Planning Commissioner to the Stormwater Task Force. And I'll just announce that I was appointed by Mr. Shields to the task force.
Lucky you.
Yes, and if, we've already had our first meeting, so if anyone else is interested in that and would like to be an alternate, just in case I break another foot, that would be nice to know if
Well,
anybody's interested.
I can be the alternate, because I did
Okay.
the watershed management
Okay.
task force.
Let's see, we'll move on now to receipt of petitions. Is there anyone in the audience who is interested in petitioning? And do we have any speaker slips? And if you haven't submitted a speaker slip and you would like to petition the Planning Commission, raise your hand after the speaker slips are finished. Are these in order? Okay. The first speaker slip is Ivanka Deerswa. Is that correct? Thank you.
I'm here as a neighbor.
And would you give your name and address?
Ivanka
for our-
Zerwa. I live at 303 North Lee Street. And the reason I'm here is because I live across the street from a house known as Woodlands House, which at one point was a historic house, 1895. When this house, well, we knew the original owners, or the Schaefers, and so we've been watching this house deteriorate over the years. When the house was being sold as part of an estate, we were thrilled because we saw a chance to save it. So we knew that there were developers about, as there always are here. And so we wanted to sort of put our word in before things got out of hand, to say what we felt as neighbors, as people living here and in that neighborhood. So we got together and created a petition, and we had about 65 households sign it. And we sent it to the Planning Commission, and I took it to the city manager, and we sent it to the Historical Commission and the Victorian Society and the Village Preservation Society. And we were hopeful that this house could be preserved and saved. So when the sale occurred and Mr. Rondhawa purchased it, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we slowly started seeing houses popping up around it. Spec houses. They weren't the historic, lovely homes that you see here. But at any rate, we still hoped that the house across the street from our house could be saved. So we watched with great interest as the house was bought and construction began, and the house was emptied out, and more kept coming out. And we thought, well, okay. Dumpsters came and dumpsters went. And we had visitors from out of town, and they would always comment on the house. And working in the yard, we had people always stop and ask about that house. They always cared. They wanted to know what was going to happen with that house. We kept looking at the progress on this house, and then we noticed that more and more of it was disappearing. And the dumpsters started going back and forth pretty frequently. And my husband would go over every once in a while when he saw things being thrown in to see what state they were in. All this old wood was being thrown into these dumpsters. And he went to look, and he said, well, it wasn't termite eaten, it wasn't rotten, it was in perfectly good shape. But nevertheless, it went into the dumpster. And the dumpsters were efficiently taken away, and new ones came. So what we now find ourselves with is a house that is practically new, and a few old boards there on the ground, and it's not what we thought it would be. We do have one small satisfaction in that this developer that came into our neighborhood was not able to fully develop that land and put more of his spec houses on it. But in all of this time, we thought that the city was monitoring this. We thought that as this wood started going into the dumpster, that the city obviously, through the permit process or whatever, had approved this. Maybe there was something drastically wrong about the house that we didn't know, even though I had gone through it. I had heard the architect's reports. I knew that it was in good shape. I saw the woodwork inside. It was beautiful. Was beautiful. So I'm only here to say that we are just devastated about this house. And I don't know what the planning commission is going to do. I don't know what the city is going to do. At this point, there's not a whole lot that we can do, is there? But there are other houses in this town. There are other lots in this town. And our concern goes to those houses that we have left and that make Falls Church so special, and that's why we love living here. So I've said my piece, and thank you.
Well, thank you for speaking with us. Our second speaker's slip is for Keith Thurston.
Good evening. My name is Keith Thurston. I live at 1015 Birch Street, and here this evening speaking on behalf of the Historic Falls Church Incorporated. As you may know, Historic Falls Church Incorporated is a nonprofit that works to preserve historic houses and structures in Falls Church, and obviously I'm speaking about the Woodlands House being demolished at 610 Fulton Avenue. Now it has a new number on Lee Street. Had a new number. Historic Falls Church holds conservation easements on many historic homes in Falls Church that prevents this kind of destruction. While we did not have a preservation easement on this house, we did attempt to acquire it earlier in the process before the property was subdivided and the spec homes were built. The situation looks pretty bad. Some facts are clear. The builder did not follow the demolition process, did not have approval. That requires council approval to have a demolition. No one on staff, no other commission can approve a demolition of a historic house. There was no permit issue, and the house is now gone. Those three facts are the key things that you have to know. There's a significant violation here. The fig leaf position that maintaining a portion of a single wall makes it a current state of alteration and not a demolition does not stand up to any common interpretation of the historic ordinances. The house was demolished in every way the historic preservation ordinance seeks to prevent. Furthermore, the builder did not follow the city process for his own building plans. The building plans that were approved have not been followed, and a separate violation should be warranted there. You should be aware that during the last two sale processes, multiple architects and multiple builders went through the house and inspected it, and the house was found to be in good condition and structurally sound for restoration. And those are well-known architects and builders that you may know of. Suggestions are being circulated that a slope in the second-story flooring was the reason that the builder demolished the structure. This is not a valid reason for demolition of a historic building. Sloping floors are common in historic houses, and builders with experience in historic preservation correct these routinely. I look forward to we provided a letter, provided photographs of the house originally, during the process, and the house as the remaining structure as it remains today. Of the historic house, the only thing that's left is the foundation and a portion of the front wall, not even the entirety of the front facade of the house. So we look forward to, I think, some remediation to occur in several ways. One, for the city processes to work, for those violations to be worked on for what has occurred. If we disregard our own code and allow developers to flaunt the law, then we have no protection on any of the historic structures that we have in Falls Church. In fact, you have no code at all if you're not willing to enforce it. It sends a signal to others that you do not have to follow city code because there will be no consequences. And the other obvious thing that needs to occur is we need to review the city processes internally and strengthen the historic preservation code. Currently today, the HARB is only advisory, and that is a shame. The HARB needs to be a mandatory process that has review, control, and approval over all the historic structures. And I think we have the abilities to do that. As you may, for some of those who've been around a while, I was the planning commission and representative on the task force to review the historic structure code. That task force worked for 6 months, came out with recommendations on revisions to the code to strengthen the code, and no action has been taken on them. It's time for us to dust that off, but to take a fresh look at the code and see what we can do now to prevent this kind of injury from occurring. This may be the most drastic situation that we've seen, but we have seen other ones that were partial demolitions and things that have occurred where historic houses have been injured. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thurston. Ron Anzalone, next speaker.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, thank you very much. My name is Ron Anzalone, 212 West Cameron Road, and I'm the chairman of the Historical Commission. I have provided you with a memorandum on this same topic, 610 Fulton Avenue. I just want to add a couple of things to the comments that have been made up to this point. The first thing I want to do is thank all of the terrific stewards of historic properties that we have in the city of Falls Church. There are many people who live in historic homes and take terrific care of them. They don't need terrible regulatory doom and gloom to fall on their heads. They need encouragement. I think one of the things that this body can do and that the city council can do to encourage everybody else is to take a firm hand and a firm stand on this particular situation. Unfortunately, not everyone is willing to take care of or able to care for, many of these special places. And however this occurred, through omission or commission, we understand that in spite of previous assurances, as you've heard, and understandings to the contrary, which permitted the subdivision and new construction to take place on much of the property, the historic house has been largely demolished with a portion of one wall left standing. Based on a drive-by inspection and recent photographs of the site, what appears to be new framing has been partially erected while only a portion of the front wall of the house has been retained. The remaining wall amounts to a minuscule fraction of the original building fabric, and in addition, all of the stylistic character-defining elements of the house have been removed. That includes the big wraparound porch that was one of the most striking features of this place. So So any assertion that the work to date constitutes an alteration of the historic structure within the letter and spirit of the Historic Cultural Conservation Ordinance would be disingenuous at best. Regardless of whatever action is taken by the city regarding the fate of this particular historic structure, we strongly urge from the Historical Commission that the Falls Church City Council, with the assistance of this body and city staff, take action to ensure that such losses are not repeated at other historic city properties. At a minimum, we strongly recommend that the HCC ordinance be amended to include a modified process for HARB review of proposed demolitions and alterations, as has been recommended by the Preservation Task Force, by the Historic Architectural Review Board, by the Historical Commission, and I think at some point by this Planning Commission, although I can't document that right now. For review and approval with a certificate of appropriateness or similar instrument, along with some kind of monitoring by city staff. Such changes need to be adopted and put in place as soon as possible to keep this situation from recurring in the future. We have a small number of historic properties remaining in the city of Falls Church. Every time I go down Broad Street, I think, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we had a nice main street here? Well, we sort of do. It would be nice to have one or two historic structures along it. Anyway, the pool is dwindling, and the remaining structures contribute to the special quality and environment of this city, and we need every single one and everybody to care about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansel. Oh, more. Wait a minute, we've got,
Okay. Thank you.
okay, we have, yes.
Excuse me. I know we don't usually speak after petitioners, but
I
would it?
have one more
Oh, you
petition.
do have
Yeah.
one more, and then, okay, thank you very much.
Okay. This petition is not on the same subject, but it is on a subject that is not on our regular agenda. It's on something that's on our work session. So I think that we need to take it right now. Nikki Henderson?
I'll always yield to Nick.
Good evening. I'm Nikki Graves Henderson. I live at 307 South Maple Street, and I'm here representing Tenor Hill Heritage Foundation, as well as co-chair of CATCH, our city's Humanities Council. I am here in support of the urban trail that Lincoln Properties is proposing at their new property that they're developing, the reserve at Tenor Hill. One of the things that Tenor Hill Heritage Foundation has been doing over the last 8 years is trying to preserve the history of Tenor Hill and the African American community in Falls Church. As you know, the area, South Washington, Annandale, was predominantly an African American community at one time. Our city was composed of almost 40% African Americans from around the time of the Civil War until the population began to dwindle after, I believe it was the 40s, 30s or 40s. There's very little tangible evidence of the people who lived here, the people who helped to contribute to the construction and the history of Falls Church. And there's very little that the public memory bears about that community. As you know, the reserve at Tenor Hill is right in the middle of what was historically the African-American community in Falls Church. I think that it's very commendable that Lincoln Properties has decided to help to preserve that early history of Falls Church. It's not just African-American history, it is American history. It's the history of our community, which will soon be forgotten without any tangible evidence. Research says that public memory lasts about 50 years or a generation. And there are many times that I lead tours in my costume, my 1865 costume with the big hoop and whatnot, and people stop, or they might sit in or walk in on the tour, and they say, gee, I didn't know that. I had no idea. Falls Church is the birthplace of the first rural chapter of the NAACP in the entire nation. People have no idea. I think that using the materials that they're suggesting, which are unique to Falls Church, using some of the elements that they are suggesting, which are unique to Falls Church, will help to give a unique flavor to what is part of the Arts and Cultural District, and will also help to give a unique flavor to a unique and hidden history. I've given some thought, a lot of thought, to this whole idea, and I've done a lot of research, which I shared with you some information from Syracuse, New York. Their gallery of art has 2 walks. One is called the Story Walk, which is history, and the other is called the Poet's Walk, which is obviously poetry. But if you look at the pictures on the third page, I believe, you'll see that they did use unique materials. They enhanced regular brickwork that we commonly see around the country and around our community as well. When I spoke with members of their project team, I was surprised because, number one, they said that although the project was completed just over a year ago and they're in the snow belt, they have not had to make any repairs. The thing that they were surprised to learn from me was that our developer has committed to pay for the construction using the different elements and also to maintain the property. They were like really shocked. I heard silence on the other end of the telephone. And what they said to me was that in their project, the city paid for the installation of the trail, and then the developer agreed to pay for the maintenance of the trail. So I think we have a really good situation here in that we have a developer who's agreeing not only to bear the cost of developing the trail, but also of maintaining the trail. I've also taken the opportunity to visit properties that were developed and are owned by Lincoln. They are very well maintained. I have never seen, I've been to 3. I've never seen bricks or cracked sidewalks or anything like that. They maintain their properties very well. So I have no reason to believe that they would not in this case. The African American community in Falls Church physically has about 5 properties still standing. In addition to that, we're intricately tied to many of the major historic properties in Falls Church. The Falls Church, for example, is just replete with African American history, things that are connected. And part of what this trail would enable us to do for the first time, which has been a challenge the whole time that we've been working on developing this trail, is to connect the sites, to lead visitors from one location to another. As many of you know, we are currently finishing up an audio tour, which will give the city the infrastructure to have audio tours for all of our cultural organizations, VIPAS, the Victorian Society. In fact, the Victorian Society has come in with us to include 4 Victorian properties on
Is
the
that
tour.
going to be a part of this, this project, audio tours?
Yes, in that the part of the audio tour is to lead people to take, to go along a trail. They may take 2 or 3 sites, they may take 4 or 5, they may take the whole tour. At this point, we have 12 African-American sites and 4 Victorian homes that will be included. So the audio tour will be enhanced by this trail.
Well, as you know, we're having a work session after our regular meeting, and we'll certainly bring all this up that you have told us. So I appreciate your speaking with us, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've had kind of 2 petition periods, and as you said, we don't usually speak after that, but I know that many of the, or some of the planning commissioners are very interested in particularly the demolition of the historic house, and I'm just wondering, a question to staff. I understand that this is going to the HARB tomorrow at their meeting, and I'm just wondering, what would our next step be? What is our role? I mean, I think that several of us would really like to get involved and have something on our agenda at some point to reinforce the fact that we think the city should be able to do something here. So I'd like to know what our next step is, aside from maybe attending the meeting of HARB tomorrow.
At this point, as you mentioned, the HARB is scheduled tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock in the Oak Room in City Hall building to review with the applicant basically what happened with it, because what was presented to them when they issued the permit has changed, and so they're going to have a discussion and have the applicant report back as to what happened and why and so forth. So, you know, it's a discussion tomorrow night, and after
So that would be first step, and
Yeah,
then
and
we
then-
could see what went on after that.
And then after
The
that,
Oak
I
Room
think
is
a
kind of
better-
small.
I think once we get all the information, while we have a lot now, there'll be more of a final determination, and that may rest with, you know, staff or the zoning administrator or the HARB or so forth. I think once we get the information, city attorney can weigh in on it, and then we'll have sort of a final deliberation identified and how that would work. So at this point, we're not there, and I think we're waiting for the final facts and to sort of nail everything down tomorrow night, and then we know where we stand exactly.
Well, I reread the minutes of our meetings that we considered the subdivision of this particular property, and the Planning Commission was quite concerned and tried very hard not even to subdivide as much as we were being asked. So I'm sure that we will want to stay involved. We'll go with Lindy first.
Thank you. This is just a very upsetting situation, because when the property came to us for subdivision, we were very diligently trying not to over-subdivide it, and also there was a proposal to subdivide in the front, which would have taken the tree. And so we've, got that all taken care of, the tree, and we thought we had the house taken care of, and obviously it didn't happen. As a matter of fact, we also took another we also did another statement on moving or changing a setback so that they could do a garage back there. And so this whole thing is just absolutely, I'm sick about it. I just really am. But, yeah. Oh.
I'm just wondering, can we do a petition from the planning commission to HARB and to the council that we are very concerned to see this historic home, which we worked over 3 meetings.
Oh, we did a lot of work on
And,
this.
remember, in Mr. Randall's side of it, he did want to subdivide it more, but we compromised with the subdivision that we did. And he worked hard to have the house and trees sold to someone who said they would preserve it. So he also did not expect this to happen. And so we all worked very hard, the developer, and, in the perfect world, we would have liked to see the whole property sold to someone who would preserve the whole thing. But Mr. Randall did work with us to save the tree and the house. And, this is just a ridiculous circumstance that's happened. But I just wondering, can we make a statement to HARB that we hope that there is some way, or do you feel like we need to wait?
I think if you wanted to make a statement individually to HARB, that would be good, but I don't know if we would have total consensus on the commission to do such a statement.
I also feel like we should make a statement to council. I have seen the council twice take up this issue of strengthening the preservation of historic homes, and twice back down and decide not to do anything. And I have to say that when I basically a friend of mine said to me, the house is down. I thought you guys saved the house. And I was shocked. This happened like 3 weeks ago. I went by and I'm like, why is the house down? I sent an email to Ms. Rodgers and Mr. Snyder, our planning director, and it's like, where'd the house go? And I never actually did get a response from staff. And I'm just so shocked by this. That it seems like we are with odds with our code constantly. We state that we want to save these houses, but we will not do the things it takes. And in this case, they actually did not have a permit. They had no permit to take this house down like this. And it's funny, I'm hearing like we're trying to decide what we're going to do. Why are we trying to decide what we're going to do? They did not follow the law.
We don't have any
I know we don't.
force of,
But anyway, I'm just, I sometimes wonder what the point is.
Yeah.
I really do. It makes me want to resign because I just wonder what the point is. We have this code, and we don't really have we don't seem to have the will to force it, to make it followed. And, and I understand property rights, and I don't want my property rights taken away more, but we live in an urban area. We have a code. This code has been on the books for years. We have gone out of our way for years to try to preserve these houses. We have moved houses from one lot to another to try to preserve these houses. It's very clear that we want to preserve these houses. Mr. Randall went to the trouble of selling it to someone saying this house needs to be preserved. They went to HARB. HARB says we need this house to be preserved. And I just don't understand.
it is, it's
I
shocking.
don't understand. And, if you don't want to preserve a house, why would you buy it?
We even asked the, I can never pronounce his last name, Joey.
Rendell.
Rendell. We even made it an absolute must that he put it on open market to sell it and everything like that. And he had plans for the renovation, which he was going to do, but he wanted to subdivide the front part of it. So this is, and I do think that members of HARB do need to take it up in front of the council.
Well, what I'm going to suggest is that if we, of course, want to go to the HARB meeting, that's perfectly acceptable, but to wait and see what they come up with, and then if we support that action, we can get a vote of the Planning Commission to do a letter of support and get it to the City Council.
There is a stop work order, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
But there's nothing to stop on.
There's nothing to stop.
There's
Well,
no,
stop.
but even to get rid of all the even to not recycle all the old wood. Oh, my God.
Well, okay, so tomorrow night is the key,
Okay.
and, well, we hope it's the key. And we will attend that meeting if possible, and then we can come back and give Harb our support, and actually petition individually city council members if in fact they can
I think
bring up this change
at some point,
to the Harb.
we should do an official request of the city council to review again the work. It's two different task forces, actually.
Oh,
that
I know,
work on
I
it.
was on that
Right.
whatever PPP.
That it needs to be reviewed, or perhaps that we should do a work session ourselves, look at the conclusion of both those task forces, and put something to the council for what we think should be done, and ask them to have a work session with
Well,
us.
I think that's a good idea.
Because, I mean, the code is our responsibility, and it needs to be fixed.
Anything further on this? Okay. Well, I thank everyone for coming. We'll do what we can. Okay, let's move on to the planning director's report. Mr. Fuller.
Thank you. Jim Snyder's, the director's on vacation. I was going to go over the upcoming schedule. Tonight, you have a work session on the reserve at Tenner's Hill, and information on the bus stops and bus shelters once we adjourn this meeting. On Tuesday, September 3rd, there are no items at this point on the agenda. However, we have a potential joint Planning Commission work session with the council on the Kensington, which is the 700 West Broad, the Burger King site. There's a proposal for that property, potentially on then Monday, September 16th. We have some tentative items listed there. The Greenway Downs subdivision zoning code amendment and the review of comments to date on the South Washington Street small area plan. Then into October, we have South Washington Street small area plan, potential recommendation to City Council. Then we have 2 site plans coming up that in October, potentially on the 21st or the 7th. You have both the Tenner's Hill Reserve and the Rushmark project at 301 West Broad. We would probably be in a final site plan stage. In terms of the Harris Teeter Rushmark project, which is 301 West Broad, we're looking at potential for a work session in September on that. They had anticipated trying to do one tonight. However, they're still working on the architectural plans. For them, there's a lot of details, and so they're still working through that. I anticipate getting a resubmission with the architectural plans for the first time at the end of August, and once we get that, we'll look to schedule a briefing with you at a work session format. That's the upcoming schedule that we have, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? No? Thank you, Mr. Fuller. When does Mr. Snyder get back from vacation?
He's actually
Not that I don't want him to enjoy his time.
September 3rd.
Okay.
The Tree Commission is taking up the small area plan, South Washington Street, Wednesday, and I plan on, since I'm liaison to that group.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to old business, which there is none. And the new business, as I mentioned earlier, was appointment of Planning Commissioner to the Stormwater Task Force. We have done that. We have had a good first meeting where they went over our objectives, and there are going to be 4 or 5 subsequent meetings. No decisions were made at the first meeting, but I will bring reports to you as they proceed. We have no other business, so I'd like to move on to approval of the minutes. These are the minutes of July 15th. Are there any,
So move.
I'd like to know
Oh,
if there are any
Okay.
corrections.
You're abstaining.
You can abstain. Any corrections? All right, do I have
Was.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motions are approved as presented, Ms. G. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Where's Rob?
He's
I
not
know.
here.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Meeting is adjourned.